Japan.
People afraid of sleep. Night terrors. Next Oprah.
Your deal is still hanging fire, and yet you're chasing off to New York to have your picture taken. That's not vanity, boy. That's insanity.
The photo session is scheduled for 2 o'clock in the afternoon. That's 4 a.m. Japan time. Mm-hmm. Now, even they do not conduct business at that hour.
Well, perhaps not, but I'll wager they think about it.
Well, so do I. Or rather, I used to. I used to lie awake at night, thinking about this deal and that scheme. 2 years ago, if I'd had insomnia, I would have been counting the projected profits of the Japan deal instead of sheep.
Well, that would have been an intelligent use of your time.
Well, I'm sorry, Grandfather, but I just don't feel that way anymore.
Huh?
And as a matter of fact, I did lie awake last night, thinking about Stone Cates and the short life he put to remarkable use.
Oh, for the love of... Now you're telling me that this renewed dedication to this fantasy career of yours is a tribute to Sonny Corinthos' dead protege.
Grandfather, don't you...
No, I'm not belittling the boy. From what I hear, he was making a decent job of himself, but don't you presume to use his tragedy as some kind of a smokescreen to cloud the issue. Hmm?
Just the opposite. It's clarifying things for me.
Huh.
You see, I was lying there thinking about all the people whose lives he touched. The kid from nowhere. The outpouring of love at his memorial service. It had me sorting out my own priorities.
Oh, and you decided that it was much more important for you to garner the love of the groupies than it was to accept your responsibility as a member of this family, the only member with the potential to carry on for me.
I am handling responsibilities, Grandfather. I am carrying on. You just don't want to admit the fact that I can do that.
Oh,
and have a life. Now, I know where we stand in Tokyo. Nothing is going to happen there for another month. They are bogged down in internal politics.
In another month, with your crooning and mooning about the meaning of life, our rising sun will have sunk.
Will you two stop shouting?
What?
Please. Emily just got home from school. A social worker is coming over to interview her about the adoption, and I don't want her to walk in on a family brawl.
It's not a brawl. It's a heated discussion.
I don't think she'd make that distinction.
Hmm?
Just control yourselves. Emily deserves a loving family. And I want her.
Another month, and that rock and roll wife of yours will have you in a recording studio creating cacophony for the musically disadvantaged.
Only on the weekends, Grandfather. That is the deal.
Well, then you better reschedule this little narcissistic exercise in New York, because tomorrow is a weekday, in case you have forgotten to consult your calendar.
I'll make up the time to ELQ twice, thrice over. Oh. Now, why don't you do your bit and butt out?
Yeah,
For the sake of Emily, will you put a lid on it?
Mrs. Bertoli from Social Services. Right this way.
It's so good to see you again. Reginald, will you tell Emily that Mrs. Bertoli is here?
Sure.
Of course. I'm glad you could come. Dr. Quartermain? Oh, Monica, please. And, this is my father-in-law, Edward.
I'm very delighted to meet you.
Thank you. And my nephew, Ned Ashton.
Hello, Mrs. Bertoli. Let me just say, since you're here about Emily, that in my book, she is aces.
Well, I really don't think that's the issue here, Ned.
Just for the record.
You know, I have a very old friend in the Social Services Department, Ed Crane. You know him?
Oh, yes, the commissioner. He's my boss, so to speak, though I haven't met him personally.
Well, then I can't very well ask you to say hello for me, can I?
Oh, Alan will be here shortly.
You know, just for the
Very
record,
short.
too, I think that Emily has a sharp little mind. She'll fit right in.
Oh, well, and here she is. Emily, this is Mrs. Bertoli from the Social Services.
How do you do, Mrs. Bertoli?
Hello, Emily.
Oh, well, yes, I guess we should leave the two of you to the business at hand.
So, what is it you'd like to know?
You're direct. I like that quality. Well, let's get right to it, okay? So, how do you feel about becoming a member of this family?
Hi.
Oh, hi.
Hi. Mrs. Bertoli told me that Reginald was here. Reginald told me that Mrs. Bertoli was here to do an interview with Emily.
Yes, they're at it right now. I have to go speak to Cook about lunch.
We had lunch.
Oh, I meant dinner.
What's going on in there?
How would I know?
Edward, you should be ashamed of yourself. Can you hear anything?
Not with your nattering, no.
Could you move over, please?
Can you hear Emily?
Oh, well, are you okay?
Fine.
Is she nice?
Uh-huh. She wants to see you and Alan now.
Monica? Alan? Please.
Seven.
She's a remarkable child in many ways.
Oh, Emily is very bright. I mean, well, not that we wouldn't love her if she weren't.
Not only bright, but insightful and pragmatic.
As to?
What she might expect from this adoption. What kind of emotional support is available to her here. You know, she's not wearing rose-colored glasses about her life within this family. In fact, she is remarkably realistic.
I hope you realize that, I'm sure you do, that Emily hasn't quite come to grips yet with the grief over her mother's death.
No, and she is, in fact, prepubescent, so she's going to have moods. You know.
Well, actually, it's refreshing to meet a child with such a sensible outlook. You know, older children often have a fairy tale notion about what life in their adoptive homes might be like. Emily has no such illusion. It's a very healthy outlook. One thing was unmistakable. Emily has considerable affection for the members of this family. Their behavior may baffle her, but she has nonetheless made some very real attachments. She knows that a relationship requires effort and understanding. To my way of thinking, a child who sees her family clearly, warts and all, has a very real chance to adjust.
Well, we've all gotten very fond of Emily. That's clear.
So what happens now?
I'll file my report today, and you should hear from the court shortly. Thank you for your time.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, for everything.
I'll see my way out.
I think we passed.
If they want warts, warts we got.
Yes.
Well, looks like we got ourselves a daughter.
Oh.
Hey, you. Well, what do you say we break out a bottle of bubbly and make ourselves a toast?
Oh, Alan.
I meant sparkling cider, that's all.
Oh, well, then that's fine. But maybe we should wait until we get the official word from the judge, although Mrs. Bertoli sounded very encouraging.
It sounded like the interview went very well.
I guess. I didn't see any point in lying to her. I'm not very good at that either. I figured she'd look around and decide the same as I did. place is kind of wiggy sometimes, but it's probably where I ought to be.
Well, that sounds like progress. And we do hope that eventually it'll be where you want to be.
I'm getting there. I better go do my homework.
She sure has us pegged, doesn't she?
And the miracle is that she wants to stay anyway. I just don't want to do anything that's going to make her regret that decision.
Well, that's a tall order. But I think the most important thing is that we're willing to work as a team. Are you willing, Monica?
We're not going to reform this family, Alan.
I don't know. Maybe we could establish a reward system, you know. Anyone who refuses to be baited or allows the other person the last word in order to avoid an argument gets...
It's what?
That's a problem when you have everything.
Besides, it wouldn't work anyway. Jason would always win.
Or Mother.
Maybe we're looking at this from the wrong direction. Maybe we should think in terms of penalties.
Like an old-fashioned cuss box. Every time you say a bad word, you got to put a quarter in.
Only this time it would be crosswords or argumentative words or anything that's mean.
Only problem is, even if you up the ante and took inflation into consideration, we've all got too much money for it to make any difference anyway.
No dessert? No TV?
No, I think we ought to give up on this one. I think it comes down to us, Monica. Emily needs stability. And that means the two of us committed to a life together. Now, are we both willing to make that commitment?
Speak now or forever hold your peace. Okay, I'm in. I know we have a long road to go. But everything seems more possible right now. And by the way, I've scheduled the last bit of reconstructive surgery. I know.
Monica, it was never a question of your breast needing reconstruction.
And I'm aware of that. At least this puts an end to that chapter. I know I haven't handled any of this very well, Ellen. And I'm sorry.
That makes us even.